Why is this opening shot so dark? Cause today I'm making Kryptonite! This build was brought to you by Smooth-On. Are you an artist, prop maker, or special effects wizard? Then you need to know everything about Smooth-On, like right now. I could seriously talk about them for the duration of this video, but I think a prop tutorial would better get the message across. So let's get to it! For this build, I used clay, Smooth-On liquid rubber, Umu 30, Smooth-On Clearcast 325, mold release, green resin dye, an LED, giant sheet of polystyrene, paint, gloves, mixing cups, clear coat spray enamel. Maybe get a newer one though, because yup, this one's old enough to buy alcohol. Oh man. You see why I need sponsors for new materials? First I made a model out of clay. This wouldn't have been necessary if I could just find a rock that was the exact right shape, but I don't feel like going outside today, so clay! When I was satisfied with the shape, I placed it atop a pour spout. I'm using Legos for the mold walls so as not to waste hot glue, as I've done in the past when using plastic or foam board walls. Also, this street platform is really convenient because of the flat road running through it. When I'm making a mold that has this much negative space, like right here in the corners, I try to add other useful shapes around the perimeter of the main model. This will also increase the, I want to say water level, but it's silicone. So by taking up some of that volume with other moldable shapes, I'm ensuring that I'm going to cover the entire clay model. The danger here is that if any of these things break loose and come into contact with the main model, they'll act as a channel which will create leaks when I pour the resin. Hence why I'm mapping it out and gluing these down. An added benefit, however, is that if I mix too much resin in the future, I'll have all these little tiny molds that I can pour the excess in. I was using this old egg model for that purpose, but these pours won't be very useful to me in the future. Like, I could probably make some sort of 1960s Star Trek-y control panel out of them, but that's pretty much it. Some of the shapes that I thought might be more useful to me were a rivet, a vacuum tube, and glossy kyber crystals. Another option if you're worried about having enough silicone is placing the walls closer to the model, or just having a bunch of weights on hand that you can drop into the mold to raise up the silicone level. But then of course, they're trapped inside the mold forever. Or you could just do math. You know, the basic math you learned in elementary school to determine volume. I sprayed the walls and the models with mold release, which isn't totally necessary with a 1-part mold, but it will make your life much easier once you have to demold this. I mixed up the silicone. Okay, so right there, the camera ran out of data, and I had to swap it out and reposition it before the silicone setup, so I apologize for this weird angle. But that wasn't as big a deal as I thought it'd be, because the pot life of this silicone is actually pretty good at 30 minutes, and the cure time for the silicone is 6 hours. Alright, so this is how you know if you mix thoroughly enough. If after 6 hours you can just pull the silicone out of your mixing bucket like that. Awesome. So I labeled all the different openings so that I would know which model was which, but those actually ended up washing off later, so ignore that. I removed the pour spout and all the little models first, and now for the main model. Okay, because this is a solid block of silicone and not a 2-part mold, I'm cutting a jagged line on either side about 2/3 of the way through it, which will act as registration and help hold the mold together while it's in use. Once I got the main model out of there, I rinsed it over and over to make sure that I wouldn't get any bits of clay in my Kryptonite. Then I measured the internal volume using sand. You know, looking back, I don't know why I didn't just use water. The mold has enough tension to keep it from leaking out, at least for the time it takes to measure the volume. Okay, so I measured that and divided it in half because the resin comes in 2 parts. Then I prepped the mold for use. You want to hold it together with loose masking tape. You can use rubber bands, but you don't want to compress the mold. It'll have the effect of warping the prop inside of the mold. I'm using Dixie cups for measuring, not mixing, because as you mix the resin and it reacts, it gets hot. And I'm not sure Dixie cups can stand up to that kind of heat. So I'm using the bottom of a mayonnaise jar, which somehow is a much denser plastic. You know, Smooth-On sells mixing cups, by the way. If you have the money, just get some mixing cups from Smooth-On. I shook up the bottles before I poured them. I poured 2 equal parts. They gotta be equal. I poured the dye into one of the parts before mixing just because I thought it might give me slightly more working time. But because I did it that way, I made it twice as dark as I wanted it, because I'm going to be mixing green with clear and that'll lighten it up. You know how this works. Once you mix the 2 parts together, the pot life is 2.5 minutes. So I set a timer and then mixed it up. I was super concerned about this curing mid-pour, so I rushed to get this done, and as you're about to see, that was a mistake. Oh no! That's also why you may want to make a little excess. However, I still had more than enough to make the main mold, and when I was finished pouring, I just used a popsicle stick to scoop it over into the side molds. I only had enough time to do this because I mixed it up a little bit faster. But if you're working more slowly and carefully, you might not spill, so you know, that's another school of thought. The cure time is around 10 minutes, and it's going to give off a lot of heat while it's curing. Plus, the silicone is a really good insulator, so maybe give it a full hour. The residue from my little spill earlier can just be peeled off, by the way. I demolded the auxiliary models first, just to make sure I'd waited long enough. They were actually a little bit rubbery because it's not totally cured yet, but a few moments later it hardened right up. Then I demolded the main Kryptonite model. Nice! There's a little bit of flash, which I just cut off with scissors, and a little bit of the pore spout, which you could sand away, but it's actually going to be covered up by the stand, so with this particular project, I don't have to do that. I wanted the surface to be shiny without having to sand it forever, so I sprayed it with clear coat. Kryptonite is usually depicted as glowing and embedded in rock, so I'm going to build a base out of foam and hide an LED inside. I carved a base and thought, well, that's clearly styrofoam, so I'll spray paint it, and the acetone will dissolve it just enough to look like meteoric iron. So I did that, and it completely melted the styrofoam. So I carved another base, this time coating it with white glue, and spray painted it, which had the effect of partially dissolving it. It's kind of what I was going for, but that look still won't quite work. So I also made a base out of EPS foam left over from the asteroid build. Link below. So I sort of alternated between glue and spray paint and acrylic paint, which won't eat it away. So when that black base coat had dried, I dry brushed them with a light gray. This will make it look more like stone than, you know, painted styrofoam. I placed an LED in the base to illuminate the kryptonite, making it look radioactive, just like every depiction of kryptonite I've ever seen. Speaking of, sometimes kryptonite is depicted as a glowing rock, and sometimes it's depicted as a crystal. So I took some of the resin castings from the auxiliary molds and made a small crystalline version of kryptonite. Oh yeah. Hey everyone, I want to give a special thanks to the folks over at Smooth On, without whom this episode wouldn't be possible. In the description down below, you'll find a link to their main website, their YouTube channel, and all the specific materials that I used in this build. And if you're new to my channel, be sure to like and subscribe for more prop and costume tutorials. Thanks for watching, Jake out.